This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
We made a movie many years ago, 2013. We shot it. 2014, we debuted it. Having Fun Up There. It's about a musician. Written by my friend Jeff. EJ's in it.
I'm a idea person.
Yes, as an idea person. We took blog footage at the video. You know, we always do kind of like a series of making ofs. And on Sexually Frank, actually, I took those and made that like a 45-minute documentary. And I always thought that I should go back and do that for Having Fun Up There. And I don't remember. Oh, it was. I think it was from watching the trauma documentaries that I felt inspired to put this together. And then I thought too, I was like, well, I didn't have anything banked for this week anyway, so this will be like I'll release this cool new kind of documentary about the movie. And it ended up being more than a sum of its parts, in my opinion, because when you take some of the when you kind of like focus a narrative around the themes across all of the video blogs, you get a different kind of story. I think you get a clearer sense of what it was like to make that movie. It seemed like the people who actually took the time to watch it and aren't just here for Box Mac did enjoy it. But having edited that together, and by the way, I think of Having Fun Up There as a Thanksgiving movie or a November movie, despite the fact that it takes place in Salem in October. Like you might think of it as a Halloween movie, but my heady reasoning is I was editing it in November because we shot it in October. So I associate it with that. I remember I released a clip on the internet on Thanksgiving Day when we were originally making it. I also think of it as a movie about gratitude and about kind of like being thankful for what you do have instead of demanding what you don't have. And then it also has like, it alludes to Rocky and it alludes to American Movie, both of which have Thanksgiving scenes in them.
One thing I remember about the production of that is just how fast everything went. Like, I remember because you took that week off.
Yeah,
we were talking a little bit, and I'm in the movie obviously, and then like, I remember when you wrapped. It wasn't that long until you had a cut of that movie. Yeah. Like it's pretty crazy how fast you made that movie, like technically.
and that's what you can do without kids.
Yeah, and then of course I helped you like film some like of the festival stuff later, but
right.
Yeah, I do love this video. I love it because I remember these vlogs. I remember them each individually, and it was such a good idea to just kind of repurpose them and retool them and finesse them into a narrative. It was like almost like this was money on the table. And
yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe I never did it. I was like, I should totally do that. And
not that like it's not like performing huge view numbers or anything, but it's a good piece of content. It's a great piece.
Yeah. And it didn't crash and burn either. Thankfully, people seem to care a little bit. And then if you care enough, then you can, if you want 8 more hours, you can listen to the audiobook that goes into absolute detail. But where I was, I was a 28-year-old guy. I'm 35 now. I've had a kid since then. I'm different in I think a variety of ways since then. And my career's changed a few times, and I just didn't know if I was going to look back and cringe. That's like that's the thing you fear the most, is it something that was super important to you that you spent countless hours on, that you sweated over, that you're going to go back and go like, I'd rather not have made any of it. It's like a terrible fear that you'll just grow past your own stuff. And in this case, especially since like, it's not, they aren't my words, although that gives me a little bit of like a, I could be like, well, he wrote it.
But, wash my hands of this.
Yeah. But I having spent time with the blog footage, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to rewatch the movie, because I hadn't watched it attentively in probably like 3 or 4 years at least. And I did, and it was a fascinating experience, because I really obviously I can't watch it as if it was the first time, but you can watch it with your cache cleared. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. Like
you're not hanging on to impressionistic memories that undercut your ability to watch it fresh. So like if a person watching it for the first time is sort of like jarred by something, you get a little bit of that jar too. You're like, oh, why did they do that? You get a little bit of that, which is cool. But overall, I not only liked it, I like really liked it. Like I'm like a fan of the movie. I'm like this is a cool movie. I think that like because it was kind of like post mumblecore, but it still sort of had that naturalistic thing. I think I was afraid that the plot elements might be too loose. That people might just be saying things to say them or just to create a sense of naturalism. But no, the things they're saying connect to things that happen later. So there's the decent setup and payoff. The rhythm is good. I'm happy with the edit. I thought I wouldn't necessarily be happy with the edit because I've had a lot of editing experience since then, but generally I was pretty happy with that. There were moments where just little weak performance moments that didn't need to stay. Like they could have just been cut out and it would have improved the movie. So that would have helped in a few spots. The sound mix would be improved today. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Everything sounds good, but there are scenes that just could come to life a bit more. They feel a little bit empty, or they feel like it's just the dialogue or something. Or, like we put in background noise, but it was mixed too low for what we're going for, or it wasn't the right background noise or something. Sometimes it's inspired, but other times it's not. The performances are up and down because we're using non-actors in certain areas, but where it counts, it really, really works. John Ryan is super good in the whole movie. Like he carries the whole movie, no problem. And, even the dialogue that you might be like, oh, I don't know, or character moments that you might cringe at or something. Like, I think we overdid it on we made his character, incompetent with technology. And it kind of like, we kind of rung that bell too many times as I rewatched it. But part of that is because, 8 years have passed and it's now like implausible that someone wouldn't have heard of Twitter. But in 2013, it wasn't implausible. No. But yeah, he's really good. Hana she's not like, she doesn't have like amazing acting chops, but she's got like a physical presence and kind of like a physicality that really works for the character and for the movie. So that works well. Maria, who plays Carla, she has like a really unexpected nature about her. I think it might even have something to do with the fact that English is a second language. And so she's a little bit weird. And that actually like, that works well for like making you, feel a little uneasy with the character. I think in a way that works towards the story. I'm in it. I think I'm good at it. I'm like, oh wow. Like in my one scene, I'm like, it feels like I'm coming up with this off the top of my head. This is good. There's a few characters that just like, but then there's other ones, like there's musicians in the movie who can't act, but they're the musicians in the movie. And so I think as the audience member, you're going, yeah, well, that's the musician. Like it's okay. Or there's times where it feels a bit written, but I'm also kind of like, well, yeah, it's a movie. Like, it's not everything has to sound like improv. Like it's okay if things, like what I was watching Shang-Chi and there were scenes, like at a dinner table that feel a bit written, but it's like, yeah, that if you go to a play, things are a bit written.
Oh yeah.
Or
like
okay.
a Tarantino film or something. You're like, this is written. I know it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's actually like, if you kind of surrender yourself to that a bit and kind of like allow yourself to enjoy the writing instead of trying to be like, oh, I don't know if it would, if they would say exactly that or whatever, you can, I think you can enjoy it on that level.
I think the cinematography holds up. I think we're talking about how it was so fun to see, Kyle talking about like the launch of the Black Magic camera, and that brought me back to that era because I was thinking about that for like when I was working at the Boston Globe and stuff like that. And I'm glad you went with the 5D Mark III with the Magic Lantern, because I think that image is much more like deeper. I think it looks more filmic. It has more of a depth to it. He's using those antique lenses, and I think they add kind of this more warmth to it.
Yeah.
So I think that all holds up really well.
Yeah, no, I was actually the cinematography maybe equal to or maybe secondary to John Ryan's performance as I think like the MVP of the movie. It's a I think all but one shot. There's a shot at the beginning where John Ryan is out of focus and it's incompetent. But other than that, every shot is like an A-, like where I'm like quite pleased with, as a baseline, everything is A-, where I'm like, this is pretty good. Like where there's nice foreground and background. There's not, the framing is deliberate, but also sort of creative. And I pair with cinematography blocking. I think like good blocking in a scene, especially with two characters, is really important. We generally didn't have them sitting and talking, or if we did, we tried to do something new with that each time. Like there's a scene of Carla and John Ryan talking outside of a Dunks, and the way they kind of move through that space, I was really happy with. But then there's quite a number of shots where I was like, this is I'm really, really happy with this shot. This is like this is like a great trailer shot, or this is a great, you could almost frame this one, or, like there's and here's the thing. It's like, there's a couple of scenes we tried to light professionally, or, we did our best to light it. Generally speaking, we didn't light the movie, and it definitely looks lit.
Yeah. Cause I even remember, in my scene, like Kyle would just get like just like a shitty lamp, and he would just like move it closer. It was like, that's it.
Yeah. And so it's not as though we just are like super serendipitous with our lighting sources. I think it was that full frame, and it was the raw color and the color correction that, like, dude, like shooting raw full frame, you can do amazing things.
I mean, I believe it's like 14-bit raw. It's like really a lot of information. It's like more, you would think it's a lot of information. If you shot Blackmagic, you probably wouldn't. One, it's a cropped sensor, so it would look a little more. It wouldn't look as good as this. It wouldn't look as the full frame is great. The color depth. So you probably were able to raise blacks way more than you were able to before with other cameras. Yeah. So. Yeah, it looks, it does. I don't see lighting problems in that movie at all.
It was cool to see everybody on set. Like, like Bonica was a really talented still photographer. She was really nice. John was, really mobile at the time, and he's well on his way to being that again. And yeah, like Nina says in the blog footage, like everybody's like a musician, and it was just a really, really cool summer camp. Like I would love to have that experience again sometime. And when I got to the end of the movie, it kind of like took me on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster with the characters, where I was like, because you're wanting to see this loser grow, and he grows in a few important ways, and he remains regressed in a few other important ways. And so you end up, so when the movie ends, I think you land exactly in a pretty sophisticated place, which I'm not even sure how we did it. I'm like just so happy that we did, though, where you feel this right balance of melancholy and optimism, which is, again, that's just a really hard thing to impart onto an audience. And the music, I actually really like the music. Like I genuinely like the music in the movie.
Yeah, it's a good soundtrack. I was because I watched that documentary. I got the soundtrack with the Johnny's soundtrack. The When I Was Younger, Winters Were Much Colder.
Yeah, it's a good song.
It's a great song.
Another thing, there was a couple of shots that, because almost the whole movie is handheld. It was all on that that Kyle rig.
Yeah.
He called it the bazooka. And again, that allowed us to shoot very quickly. But there's a few times where we do like kind of a voyeuristic thing, like where the subject is out of focus, and we're kind of like, almost like a camera was forgotten in a room or something like that. And those shots,
The Office does that a lot when they have intimate scenes with characters. It's like they're shooting like through a window in a room.
Right. Yeah, and there's a couple. There's a for instance, when he comes home from work, he just got canned, and the movie had been very dialogue heavy up to that point, and then suddenly it's just him like wandering around his house, and so the camera placement was different deliberately, and those shots where the camera is almost hiding, those should really be tripod shots. They shouldn't have a human element to them, because if they have a human element to them, it almost implies like there's somebody in the
there's someone in the house.
Yeah, and
This is a different kind of movie.
That just little things like that could have been improved or discovered in the moment. But there was like in the documentary, there's this one part that I can't figure out. I'm obsessing over the volume of an alcohol bottle, and I have watching the real movie, I'm like, what the fuck was I so worried about? I have no idea what I was obsessing over. It's all those little, it is crazy though. Like there's all these little decisions that often are important, because they're what make the movie a little bit bigger than what you're shooting.
But it's amazing how you don't really remember, you didn't think it was important, but it was important at the time. That is so, and it's like those things that are lost to your
really
memory.
I must have. It seems like I was arguing about like, oh, if it's full, then it means he hasn't been drinking, and that means this for the scene. But if it's like sealed, then that means he just got it. And I cared about something. Nina and I were trying to puzzle it out, but we couldn't. I rewatched it with her, and she was feeling really good about it too. She was like, "This is great." But it's funny because I remember when I made my first feature, or like in my first year of making my first feature, I remember thinking like, man, I'm like 16 at this time. I'm like, when I finish this thing, all I'm going to do is watch it. It's like having your bathroom remodeled and then never using your bathroom. You're like, when this thing's done, I'm going to shit in it every day. You know, like you kind of want to get like a good return on investment from your, like, maybe nobody else will watch it, but I'm going to watch this movie. But it's not what happens at all. You finish it, and the last thing you want to do is watch it. And then a couple of years go by, and you're like, I'm afraid of it. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
So
I know it is funny going back to, because even like things like my Game of Thrones reviews, and I'll be like, how did I write that joke? Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
You're surprised by yourself by all your decisions. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing that watching the blogs back was, I was like, to your point about the speed of it, I was like, I kept remembering like, oh, and not just that, we also did this that day. Like we had to like load up the car, and we had to like get to this. So we went from here to here in this amount of time. Then we must have shot it. Then we must have crossed our fingers that this person was going to show up. And then I guess they did, because a lot of times people don't show up. But like, with the exception of the obvious stories, like the rain date and the bar falling through and stuff, everything kind of landed where it needed to land. But like we recorded a podcast every day of the shoot, like an hour to 2 hour podcasts. And I was like, when the fuck did I find time to record podcasts? Or have like the presence of mind to do that? I
know, especially after long days of shooting. It's like, what the hell? Where'd you get that energy?
I was on some kind of adrenaline that week. And I remember, obviously, for those who don't know, Kyle and I fought the entire shoot, basically. And he was like really grumpy. And I remember when we were finished, although you watch the footage back, he seems like he's pretty pleasant generally, and it makes me feel bad actually. But at the end of the shoot, we were working together at the time. We were both in the office, and it was almost like we had bad sex or something. Like we didn't really know how to like talk to each other again. And I remember he was sore he was sick, and he was sore because he of course had the most physical job on the thing, and he got through it. And as soon as the adrenaline dropped, his body was just like, nope, dead.
Yeah. No, I understand that completely.
Yeah. But now that I'm in shape and stuff, I would, if the circumstances were right, I guess I would do a blitz like that again. But chances are I wouldn't, because I don't think it's the ideal way to make a movie. I think there's benefits to doing it as a blitz. I think there's all kinds of cool, there's lots to be said for momentum. But the reason we did it in 9 days consecutive like we did was because of John Ryan, because he was coming from the West Coast. So we had him for a block of time, and we just wanted to get it done.
No chance to get pickups, that's for sure. No.
We had one 10th day where it was just like some stuff of Marie. It was like I think it's the only set of footage in the movie that doesn't contain John Ryan. That's the other nice thing about that movie was it was all centered around a main character, which for an indie movie I kind of recommend. Like, see if you can really focus it on somebody, and then nail that casting. It'll carry most of your movie.
Yeah.
But I would, revisiting it all and feeling good about it. It's motivating. It does make me think. Should probably make that speedrunner movie. Should probably do it. Could be fun.
It could be.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.